Okay, are we live? Yeah, we should be live. Okay, nice. Let's do this. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Are we doing this? Yeah. Welcome to yet another live development stream. Today we're going to be looking at chaining when-then expressions. Sorry for a slight delay. Just going to go over to VS Code, check whether the sound is fine here as well. Yeah, looks like it should be okay. Nice, we've got this. Okay, gonna zoom in a bit so it's a bit easier to see from the stream. Okay. So first of all, where are we? And this branch remove Modin from typing, but if we look at git diff, then I was curious. I was just asking. No, this doesn't look right. Let's just make a little implementation file and let's see what we're trying to do. So suppose that we've got some data that's something like this. A 1, 2, 3, B 4, 5, 6, C 7, 8, 9. And what we want to do is something like cuDF select pl.when pl.call A is greater than 1, then B, and otherwise when it's greater than 2, then C, and then otherwise $999. I don't know, something like this. Let's just print this. Python T, let's see what this looks like. Okay, so we're expecting that for the first element, yeah, it's not greater than 1. So we go to the otherwise. The second element, maybe let's say less than or equals, just so that we should have 1 for each one. So yeah, we start off, it's less than 1, so we take column B. Then we get something that's less than or equal to 2, so we take something from column C, and otherwise we take the lit value 999. Cool. Nice. Now, what happens if we narwhalify this? So now, going to do nw.from native df. Let's also do lazy duckdb to check that we're not just blindly reusing something from polars. And then, instead of pl, we're going to replace each pl call with nw. And now, for start, there's too many closed brackets, but that's an easy fix. Solving that, though, tells us that then object has no attribute when. So let's solve that. Let's go over to class then. So this one has an otherwise. Let's make sure we're starting off from a clean slate. So chained when then. Let's fetch upstream and make sure we're starting off perfectly in sync with upstream main. Then this isn't quite test-driven development, it's more like example. Well, I guess it's almost a test. It's just little demo driven development. So instead of otherwise, we're now going to make a when. So the idea is we want when, which, what does it do? Let's check our current when function. Let's start by copying all of this, but without the docstring. Yeah, class then. So let's paste it in here. And delete this docstring that we don't need. Yeah. Let's then restore the indentation for otherwise. So what we want is so we've already got, let's just put a breakpoint. Let's just see what we've currently got. I think we've currently got, we need to append a node. We've got this when then. So self.node 0, it should be the only node we've got. Yeah. So last node could be self.nodes. Maybe let's do it like this, just so this gives an implicit assertion that there's only one, right? Underscore nodes. Yeah. That's fine. And then here we've got extras. We've got this tuple. I know. This is what we want, I think. What do we actually want? Let's take a look at self nodes. The first one, yeah, this is just going to be self nodes 0. Enough fooling around. Last node, and in here, I think we should have this extras. So this gives us, so here is the when, and here is the then. So what we want to do is we want to inject this when into the otherwise, yeah, because if we did when then otherwise when, then this isn't supported in Polars, right? You can only do when then before you get to otherwise. So when we get then, we make this extras, which is self-predicate and value. What about when we do otherwise? Oh, it just has an extra expression. Okay. So what we want here is going to be something like this, that we're going to add this when in the otherwise. Is this wise? Maybe not. Maybe let's just try to write out the plan a bit better. So what I'm thinking is that currently let's say we're starting with when condition, then value 1, otherwise value 999 or something. Like, what node does this give us? Let's take a look. So let's say a greater than 1, then 1, otherwise 999. So this gives us a node where extras is you start with the first one, so it's the condition. Then you've got value 1 and then value 2. So what we're aiming for, we want to enable this one when, then, and then when condition 2, then value 2, otherwise, keep the same otherwise. So this needs to become condition value 1, and then here we've got another when condition 2, then so this should be another when then expression where the expressions are now going to be condition 2, value 2, and then the otherwise value. Yeah, we need to make another when then in there. Okay, I think we can do this. So just going to put it here. Not saying that this is going to be easy, it's going to take some focus to get right, but I think it is going to be nice if we can just do it here rather than having to mess around and do something complicated in each backend. Right, so last node is going to be self.nodes -1. And then we're going to say for now, I'll just modify this in place. This isn't how we're going to want to do it long term, but the new one is going to be, let's make a new node. Yeah, new node is going to be when predicates. So this one is going to have the last node dot express, and in addition Does this make sense? So, underscore. Yeah, wait, I'm adding a new. What is when? No, it's just its own class. I can't just add this, can I? Yeah, surely this is the wrong type. Yeah, no, it needs to be into expr or non-nested in literal. Could we return a new when node? So what happens when we do dot then on a when node? Then, this makes a then node, which has the predicate and the value. So Cam in the chat says, should when and then be combined into a single type that has all three methods and returns instances of itself? Maybe. And hi. Hi. Maybe. I kind of feel like, well, I don't know, because you can't just use when by itself, whereas you can use when then. So at the moment, then subclasses expression, but when doesn't. So what we could do then. So first of all, let's see what happens. What to rewrite this as. So this, I want something that has like when condition 2 is right. Well, I kind of feel like saying when not condition 1 and condition 2, and then having this here as otherwise. I've just got a feeling that something really weird is going to happen if I try to invert conditions like that. I think what I really want is to make a new when object, which has when condition, then value 1. Oh yeah, wait a second, and otherwise, no, when condition 2, but this one is, I haven't received the then yet for this one, so I don't know what to put. But let's just explore the idea of doing it the other way around, which would be when not condition and condition 2. And we need to store the otherwise somewhere. This is... Am I going down a dead-end path? Maybe. What am I doing? Well, we could store something, I guess. Yeah, we could store something here. Something like previous when. And then here, this would become, the extras would be self.predicate and otherwise. Something like this, self.otherwise. Extra or none. And then here we say something like extras equals self.predicate value if self.otherwise is none, else self.predicate value self.otherwise. Right, so then we need to make a new node in which we start by having self dot so we make, yeah, we take the last node dot take the first expression there, which should be so condition extra, then yeah, wait, where am I even going with this? Yeah, I want to make a new when node in which maybe we need a previous when or something like that. Let's try that. So previous when then, this is going to be a then. Or none equals none, yeah. And then here, I'm going to say if previous when then is none, then extras is going to be self predicates and value, else oh, okay, yeah. Can this work? So we can say previous predicate. Yeah, this is going to be an extra. We already know that. So we take the previous predicate. We're going to take the previous then, which is going to be the first expression. And there can't have been a previous otherwise. So now the expressions are going to be previous predicate, the previous then, and otherwise. So new node, with this one where we've got self.predicate and value. I think it's just an indentation error, I hope. Then it's not defined. Okay. Oh, new extra, not new node. Right, so we've successfully made this new expression. Let's see what's red. Cannot access attribute extras. Right, so yeah, let's check what exactly do we have here. So when extra node. Yeah. Let's just put a breakpoint here. Let's just try to understand what we've got. So self here is a then function. Okay, well, we could just say new node equals when predicates, then new node dot previous when then equals self, and then return new node. So then what attributes does then have? It's got its previous when then. I feel like we're getting somewhere. Not sure where, but we are getting somewhere. Let's check here. Hey, Marco, still need to work on the from dict data frame construction backlog of hell. Hey, Akmal, how are you doing? Yeah, Akmal wanted a from dict which would be supported for lazy frames. So I suggested adding a class method like lazyFrame.fromDict, which I think would be really neat. Yeah, right now we're working on chaining when then, which has been requested for a while. I'm not entirely sure why, because there is a user workaround, which is just to do extra when thens yourself, but I understand that it's a bit ergonomic. Anyway, it looks like a fairly fun feature to work on. So, and there's a PR open for it, which is nice. It's nice when people do that. So yeah, I figured it would be a fun one to explore and to try to address. Right, let's take a look at what we've got here. So previous, when, then. What attributes do we have here? I think we can access underscore nodes. Yeah. Okay, underscore nodes 0. And then extra. Okay. I managed to get Narwhals to work on Glue interactive session with dbt Glue Python model. Nice. How difficult was that? Right, so we've made previous predicate and previous then. So we could just put them here. Does this work? Yeah, okay, there's no type checking complaint. And we didn't need to ignore things now. It was hell because dbt glue Python is so underdeveloped. I don't know anything about that. dbt glue Python, what is this? Oh, is it made by AWS or something? Is it this one? AWS samples dbt glue. Right. Now we're giving 5 arguments where in a place where there should have been far fewer than 5. So that's not good. That needs resolving, but let's resolve it. Let's assign this to a temporary variable return. Yeah, we need to get this to pretty print at some point. But for now, this will do. So got this all horizontal. Yeah, got this B. Then we've got this when, then. We've got our new condition. We've got C. Yeah, this. To my untrained eye, looks like it should be okay. When this, then this, otherwise. Oh, wait, what happens now when we go into otherwise? So here we were expecting 3 to 4, oh, 5, yeah, okay, so here is where there's an extra one going in. So actually, this is where the otherwise needs injecting into the last ones otherwise. So we started off with this. Yeah, the otherwise needs to go into here. Okay, so we need to update otherwise. Let's take a look at what we've got here. Node. Type node. Extra node. So let's take a look. So predicate then and yeah, so I kind of feel like there should always be an otherwise. Um, okay, so, right. If len extras equals 2, then we're going to return this. No big deal. And otherwise, this means that we need to inject it into here. So here we've got when, yeah. So type x plus 2, this is a then. Let's see, so predicate when then otherwise equals extra. And then otherwise needs replacing. It's actually yeah. Otherwise dot x plus, right? So temporary assert assert this instance, otherwise extra. So now we've got the when and the then from this one, and we need an extra otherwise, which is this value, yeah. And then finally we can return this when then, which is gonna have predicate then otherwise. Hey, did this work? I think so, but I'm skeptical. I'm not going to trust this, and we need a few extra safety assertions. But I think this is encouraging, so gonna take a little break, and then I'll be back, and we can finish this. Git brunch. I used to have a colleague who would call it Git brunch. No joke. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that it was wrong, because it amused me. So git commit whip. This kinda works, maybe. Need extra safety assertions. Come on. Git commit, I need to take a break. Assert, yeah, let me put this assert. Yeah, this return ret is unnecessary. Nice. Kind of feel like the next step after the break is to try to cherry pick this commit into the open PR, which tries to add this feature, and see what happens. See, because he'd written some nice tests there, so let's see if the tests pass. And even though I won't be keeping the implementation from that PR, if we can at least keep the tests and then give credit to the person who opened it, that's at least, I feel like that's a nice open source thing to do. Right, intermission time. let's get back to this. Enough slacking around. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to this awesome PR that a contributor opened. And yeah, let's see if we can. Let's see if we can cherry pick the commit we just made onto it and see what it looks like. So where is it? Where did it go? Somewhere here. Here it is. Chaining when, then, otherwise. I follow the combos from Dan on the closing issues related to PRs for the 3 class. Okay. Is this the part that he's looked at? Yeah. Okay, it becomes that. Oh wait, this is literally powders. Okay. Right, let's try to add this. He's talking about a 3-class approach, but it looks like this is being done for each backend, which I don't know if it's something that I'd want. So here we've got this when, then, simple, and this. Yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong or anything. I just think I prefer to do this at the top level, because otherwise we need to repeat this kind of logic. Oh my gosh, modulos. We need to repeat this kind of logic for all of the backends, which does get quite complicated. So is there just a single test file that's been added? Okay, so we'll sort out the Git shenanigans later, but first, I'm just curious, if we take this test, add verbatim, and just add it, what happens? What fails? Rather than does it work, let's ask ourselves what fails, because I'm sure something is going to fail. There's something red here. Uses PyArrow backend. Is that in test utils? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see what fails. Let's just choose a single constructor just to see. Too many to unpack. So in this case, previous when then was already set and it had an otherwise. Is that possible? Let's take a look at the test. It may well be possible. So we've got when then, and then otherwise. Yeah, okay, well, let's just run this last one. Let's put a breakpoint when the test fails, and then we can take a look at why. So let's take a look at what we've got here. So we've got when a is equal to 1, Ooh, is this actually... Is it not printing side quest? Let's open a separate one. That's the story of open source, just side quest after side quest. We can never get the original thing done. No, this looks fine, yeah. A equals 1 and this equals 10, yeah. So somehow here we've only got A equals 1. Yeah, that needs resolving, okay. Anyway, then we've got then column B. And otherwise we've got A equals 2. This is very odd. I don't think I'm looking at the test that I think I'm looking at. Oh, it might be this one. Is this the test I'm looking at? Yeah, that's it, in fact. Okay. Phew. Yeah, let's do this PDB. So when A equals 1, then column B. Otherwise, when column A equals 2, then 100. Yeah. Right, so there might be a previous otherwise as well. So what happens to these? Previous predicate? Yeah, what happens if... Yeah, yeah, this value is the otherwise. So there's already this one. And now we're doing an extra when then on top of that. Let's go back to the drawing board. Yeah, let's check here what this actually gets rewritten to. So here we've got when col A equals 1, then col B, and then we've got this otherwise. So it's essentially, so let's write it again. So we're starting with a when then, which is col A equals, let's put this on different lines so it's a bit more readable. Col A equals 1, then col B, and otherwise we've got when then. Col A equals 2. Then 100. And now, in the test, we're adding an extra when. So we then add an extra when. So when A is equal to 3. So it should go in here, really. Okay. think I got this. We look at this nodes 0, and then so something like previous extras is equal to this. And then if len previous extras equals 2, then we create a new node like this. And otherwise, how did we get in here? I'm not even sure what we're talking about at this point, so I'm just going to put a breakpoint and try to understand what on earth is going on. So at which point are we here? Yeah. Prev expers. Yeah, so we're now adding the then. Yeah, wait, why are we here inside of then? How did we get here? Oh, we're at this call b times 2. Yeah, okay, so we've got this extra predicate which we need to add in somewhere. So we need to make a new expression as well. And the expressions here are going to be previous extra. This should be of length 3, right? 0, 1, 2. Yeah. Whereas yeah, nodes 0 dot express. This is not sure what to make of this. Yeah, and then well, maybe the new expression is the same. We've got this self predicate. Yeah, okay, maybe we can do something like this. So predicate previous then previous otherwise equals previous expressions. and then previous otherwise we need to overwrite is actually going to be it's going to be this logic again. Can we reuse the dot otherwise actually? Because here maybe not so easily. Let's just do it. Get it green, then get it right. Yeah. So I think I'd got something temporary here. So previous express. Yeah, this one. Yeah, okay. Well, let's say previous otherwise equals here. Let's add a cast. Then here we can make this extras, right? Which is going to be previous extras. Then the new otherwise. Really? Can this be? Does this actually make sense? No, of course it doesn't. Anything so complicated can't possibly really make sense. Let's get rid of breakpoints. When then 3 to 4, yeah. Okay, so this suggests to me that in functions we're making some node with too many expressions. This looks like it should be fine. But here it might not be. So then express here is 3, which should be okay. Let's do this one step at a time then. So let's take this when let's remove the otherwise 0. I'm just curious if that might be the issue. Oh yeah, this actually works now. So the otherwise is indeed the issue. Okay, so let's solve the otherwise. What we've got here. Oh, yeah. Might need to uncomment that. Right. We've got predicate. Yeah, sure. And then the otherwise is going to be this super complicated one, where if A is equal to 2, then 100, otherwise column B multiplied by 2. Oh. So now we again need to branch on otherwise is extras. There's definitely something we can generalize here. I feel like if we go to the then, we'd made something already which we might be able to use. Yeah, okay. Well, it's just getting a bit complicated. So rather than adding too much complexity, yeah, let's just take a step back. And yeah, let's just try to think through it a bit more. So we've got a previous when then, which is a then node. Which, let's just check we kind of understand that. So previous when then, type, yeah, it's a then node. It's an expression really. So it's got this when then. So this is, yeah, the previous when then. It's a then node. It doesn't matter that it's then, really, does it? It's extra. Well, we might want to add some convenience methods on the then to make this a bit less messy. With a predicate, a value, a then value, and possibly an otherwise value as well. Or not. I don't, actually, maybe this one can't have an otherwise value set. So in this case, yeah, when a is equal to 1, then call b. Right, so when a is equal to b, then b otherwise when a equals 2, then 100. Yeah, it could have a possibly otherwise value. Yeah, there's got to be a smarter way to think about this, but I think if I don't work through it, it won't make sense to me. So then the simplest case here is that there just isn't a previous one. This is literally just when, then. It's the first one. In which case, your expressions are just the current predicate and the value, and that's it. But if there is a previous one, then you need to inject this if there's a previous when, then we need to inject the current one into the previous ones. Otherwise, so the previous expressions, we make a new expression which has the current predicate and the current then value. And if previously we had two expressions, this becomes the otherwise, and otherwise, we take the previous otherwise, we take its expressions, and we add a new value. This part is still feeling a little bit strange to me, that there could be an otherwise value. So, I mean, we start with when A, then B, and we've got a when, then A, B. Then we do when A, then B, when C, then D. So we've got when A, then B, and otherwise when C, and otherwise D. Then we add a then to this. Like this whole thing becomes the previous one, yeah? Or does this count as the previous one, really? Maybe this counts as the previous one. Maybe. Maybe, in which case we're not passing down the right thing. Let's take a look. So self previous when then equals, I know not necessarily dot, previous when then equals self. Is it really self that we want to add there? Let's take a look at this test. So the first time here we've got self. Yeah, second time, maybe this is what I want to be adding in, you know? Or is it the whole thing that I want to be? Yeah, wait, because what do I actually want to return? I want to still return one big node where we've got all these things. Maybe this is fine, but what we need to do then is to dig deeper into the then. And then we just say, okay, so if there's only 2, we can just add a new otherwise based on the current predicate and the current value, and otherwise we need to go into the previous otherwise and add this there. So I think what's happening here is that this just, there's no limit to how nested this can get. Yeah, this needs to be a loop of some kind. And I think I'm a little bit tired at this point to think about how to do it. So it's probably time to call it a day. Let's commit what we want, what we've got so far. And let's thank Will for having started this. Work in progress, broken, of course. I think so. Let's just reply to Will. I think the tests you've added are excellent. I just think that this needs handling completely at the Narwhals level without needing to go into any of the compliant. This one is a headache, yeah, but we'll. I think if we just slow down and think through it slowly, it's simpler than I'm thinking. But we'll get to it without needing to go into any of the compliant code. It's okay. So I'd like to keep those. I just think, implementation-wise, into yeah, let's just leave a test comment like this for now. We'll get to it later. Yeah, excited about this anyway. Right. Anything else we can take a look at? No, not really. Wonder what this is about. Oh, are they hard coding something? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. If you see people starting pull requests with lots of ifs, it kind of feels like they're targeting the solution a bit too closely rather than thinking more generally. Of course, I don't know if this is exactly what's happened here. It's just a common thing in rejected PRs that there's lots of if-then statements and conditions like that. Cool. Yeah, thanks, Cam and Akmal, at least. Yeah, thanks for joining in. This was good fun. Hope that we can resolve this. So yeah.